All right, everybody, this is the Spread Zone presented by FanDuel. And, of course, the mission is the same every single week. We want to make you guys money.
Yep.
And all the numbers we're talking about are FanDuel lines, so they can move. So always double-check before you lock anything in. And as always, bet what you could afford to lose. If it stops being fun, Tim, stop, for God's sake.
Yeah. That's a good message, and I appreciate you directing it to me because I needed to hear that.
Need to answer
because the intervention last week didn't work.
All right, my name is Riz, joined by Tim McKernan and Anthony Stalter. Fellas, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, well, here's how we're going to do it today. We're going to recap last week's picks. Then we'll get into the PGA Tour's Truist Championship at Quail Hollow. Then we'll talk UFC 328, Shemaya versus Strickland, and then we'll talk NHL and NBA playoffs. But we'll start with Tim McKernan. You seem to be on a heater with this golf thing. What's going on?
Well, we're excited about being able to deliver winners for the loyal viewers / listeners of the Spread Zone. 3 weeks ago, I believe it was, they headed to Hilton Head for the RBC Heritage, and I was on Matt Fitzpatrick. He brought it home, winning at a course that he had success at before. The following week, we had the Zurich Classic. Matt Fitzpatrick and his brother Alex Fitzpatrick. That was the play, 2 for 2. Last week, they headed to Doral for the Cadillac, and Cam Young was the play. Cam Young paying plus 1,300. We gave you that. So we're turning out winners here for the people, and now I feel like, okay, I got to deliver. Now I actually feel pressure. You know, it was fun. Hey, we're 30 games out of first place. We'll just have some fun. And now it's gotten real here, Riz.
Well, now we turn the page to the Truist Championship, a PGA Tour signature event at Quail Hollow in Charlotte. Have you ever played down there?
I have not played at Quail Hollow, but they have been going there for a number of years on the PGA Tour.
And I listen, I ask you every week because you've played a lot of courses.
Yeah, this is a course that Justin Thomas won the PGA Championship at his first major in 2017, and it's a course that Rory McIlroy has had a lot of success at, winning 4 times in his career.
So we are recording this on a Wednesday at noon Central. So tournament starts tomorrow. It rolls through Sunday. The headline here is, stop me if I'm wrong here, Tim, we are back at a big boy course. And Quail Hollow famously bites late with the closing stretch. So you want guys who can strike irons, avoid the blow up, and pretty much keep their nerve. Am I right?
You are going to be tested down the stretch at Quail Hollow without question. Now, Scotty Scheffler won the PGA there last year, but he is not playing this week because they're in the midst of this stretch of back-to-back signature events, and then next week we have the PGA Championship. So Scheffler is taking this week off. People might go, what about Scheffler this week?
Nope.
Taking the week off.
Do not bet him.
That would be ill-advised. But he has
be on the board.
He has had 3 straight events in which he has finished in second place. How about that? I mean, what are the chances of that? The Masters, and then at the Heritage, and then this past week at the Cadillac. So he is playing really well. I'll be curious to see what the numbers are for him. Right now, in the game of golf, you have 4 players who are head and shoulders above everybody else. Some are household names. Some, for non-golf fans, you wouldn't know them. And it really creates quite a dynamic for next week. 3 of those 4 are playing this week because one of them is Scheffler. Of course, Rory McIlroy, who won at the Masters. This will be his first event since winning.
He's your favorite.
The Masters, and he is the favorite. You have Matt Fitzpatrick, who could have / should have won the Players, but Cam Young chased him down, and Cam Young was in the mix to win the Masters and then won again last week. He is playing incredibly well. So you have Cam Young, you have Fitzpatrick, you have Rory, and you have Scheffler, 3 of the 4 participating in the festivities this week in North Carolina.
So you got Rory, Cam Young, Schauffele, your top 3 on the board. Who are you? How are you going to bet this event, Tim?
I loved my plays the last 3 weeks. I truly did. I'm not just saying that because they wound up working. So if this one winds up hitting, I don't feel as strongly. Where I start on this question is, what is the motivation for the players? Which may sound crazy, but in the case of 3 of the 4 guys who have been playing so well in Rory, Cam Young, and Matt Fitzpatrick, I wonder if they're really committed mentally to this event when there is a major championship
next week.
Now, this is a signature event, and what that means is there is not a cut. So they're going to be around for the weekend. But how much will they mentally focus when they've been having the success that they've been having? I'm really curious to see if Cam Young can carry it over. I said last week the difference for Cam Young is that he brought on his teammate from Wake Forest as his caddy. And this guy, according to Cam Young, is the best green reader he ever saw. And he's like, I can't putt. All he does now is tell me exactly where to hit it. I hit it there. I don't even have to worry about reading greens. It's not really a skill that you can track with data, but this guy has it, and it's turned Cam Young into a real force. Is he going to be able to just follow up what he did last week? Cam Young, for the record, plus 950. Matt Fitzpatrick didn't have a great time at the Masters, but other than that, data-wise, strokes gained approach, you'll be hard-pressed to find somebody who's been better than Matt Fitzpatrick this year. Can he and will he be carrying that over this week at Quail Hollow? And then the one that, for me, is really, if you are betting this event, it starts and stops with the Rory McIlroy question. He won a tournament here back in 2010, and he's won 4 times in total at this golf course. In addition, whether he's dialed in or not, he has the ability to hit the ball further than almost anybody in the field, and the distance, like defense and other sports, travels. In addition to it, the course fits his game. Obviously, he's won 4 times there. So will Rory McIlroy have the response to his Masters win that he did last year, which was he kind of faded, and with the looking back on it, he said, I just wasn't really locked in after I won the Masters. So I was watching his press conference this morning, guys, and he was asked about his motivation. He said, I am more motivated than I was last year. I think mentally he is freed up. He didn't have his A game at Augusta. Nobody on that Sunday from the leaders really did. Tyrrell Hatton made a charge, but he wasn't in the mix. Everybody else just kind of didn't play well. Rose didn't play well. Young didn't play well on the back nine. And Schauffele made a charge, but he was so far back, but he didn't make birdies down the stretch. So McIlroy just kind of won it by default without his A game. So you sit there and go, okay, is McIlroy the guy? And is it obvious? And plus you're getting 5.5 to 1. And that's where the conversation for me starts. And I'm going to go with Rory McIlroy. And I know it's chalk, but I got to give the people what I think. And that's what I think. I think he is at a place now where his mind is so freed up. I'm in the process of reading the new book by Ellen Shipnick on Rory McIlroy, and so much of his issues throughout have been mental. I think his mind is freed. I think he would love to go off in 2026 with this Grand Slam and a second Masters Championship, and so I think you will find him committed, and either way, he's going to hit the ball further than anybody else anyway at a course that he's had success. So I'm going to take Rory McIlroy at plus 550, but from the purpose of the famous verb sprinkle, who would I sprinkle outside of Rory McIlroy? Patrick Cantlay has played well there. He is not a popular player, but he's played well there, and he's played well here in the last month and change. He's plus 3,500. I would bet Pat Cantlay on a top 10, and if you would like to, at plus 3,500. And a name that's always lurking early on in the week, and I've got to think this is a mental thing because I was on him at the Zurich with his partner Hayden Springer, and that name is Alex Smalley. They wound up finishing 1 stroke behind the Fitzpatrick brothers. This guy always starts out strong, Alex Smalley. But then for whatever reason, on the weekends when he's near the leaders, he falls off. Alex Smalley to be your first-round leader, that is a play that I say, go ahead and fire a little taste on that for the hell of it.
I'm going to go with a first-round leader sprinkle as well.
Oh, what are you going with?
I'll take Rory at plus 1,400.
Plus 1,400 on Rory. Yeah,
as a sprinkle.
Wouldn't surprise me.
My outright winner will be Xander Schauffele at plus 1,000.
You're going on Xander.
Yeah, and by the way, you know what? A name that I keep kind of reading about is Ricky Fowler.
He's been playing really well.
Ricky Fowler really is in this event's orbit historically, and he's always a name that pops up at Quail Hollow. I don't know if I'm going to put any money on him, but that's just a name I've just been seeing pop up. But
he's been playing really well.
Schauffele is, this is a course that rewards dudes who can hit pressure approaches and not melt on tough par fours. Xander is that profile every year, and at plus 1,000, I am good with it.
Yeah, I like Xander as well, and Ricky Fowler, I had his name written down as well because of the strong course history and his recent form. Tim, I'll throw one more name at you.
Yep.
Because I don't think I've heard you mention him. If you did, I apologize. But what about Ludwig?
I was looking at him
Plus
as well.
1,800.
I mean, he's kind of trending toward a breakout win at some point.
You certainly would think so.
That's a number that pays. I mean, 1,800.
1,800. What I would do on those, because I think we're in the, I mean, Rory McIlroy, it'll be top 10s minus 185. That to me isn't worth it. I would go with Ludwig at plus 120 on a top 10 and Patrick Cantlay at plus 230 on a top 10. If you're going top 10ing, if Smalley can keep it together on the weekend, he's plus 370. Again, I like to give people names of players who I know aren't necessarily household names, but have value. Jacob Bridgman was another one of those names. He played really poorly. If you're doing a daily fantasy sports lineup, he'd be a good play this week, just because most people will be off him. I think Ludwig, Cantlay top 10, and I'll go with Rory McIlroy to win. I hate saying it because it's so boring, but if that's what I think, that's what I got to say. Rory McIlroy plus 550.
Whatever makes us money.
That's the name of the end. 5.5 to 1 on our dollars. That's fine.
That's it.
Fine.
Let's make it. How many weeks in a row?
That'd be 4 in a row going into a major. Yeah, I know.
Believe.
Yeah, here we go.
Believe.
Here we go.
All right, well, let's take a break. If you guys got anything else on that, I think it's a good time to break here. That's it on Quail Hollow. We'll come back. We'll talk UFC 328, Chimaev versus Strickland. It's the Spread Zone presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, we're back on the Spread Zone presented by FanDuel. UFC 328 is on Saturday at the Prudential Center in Newark. Early prelims at 4 o'clock Central Time, prelims at 6, main card at 9 o'clock. It's all on Paramount Plus. The main event is Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland for the middleweight title. And then the co-main event is Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira for the flyweight title. So I've got 3 picks for you.
All right.
For UFC 328. So I'm not laying minus 590 on a title fight. And I don't care how good the favorite is. That's not how you build a bankroll here. But my first pick is Joshua Van on the money line at plus 144. We'll start with this one. So if you haven't watched him a ton, here's a quick scouting report. I know you guys are not UFC guys.
Yeah, but we like to learn.
You like to learn, right?
And,
And if we got somebody we trust telling us what to do, we'll fire a bullet.
Joshua Van, money line. So if you haven't watched this guy a ton, here's the quick scouting report. He is a pressure volume striker. He wins minutes by staying in your face, piling up clean touches, and forcing you to fight at his pace. He's not out there playing chess from the outside. He's making you work every second of every round. What I like for betting purposes is Joshua Van's style is usually reliable. Output travels, cardio travels, and he doesn't need a perfect moment to win. He could win by simply being the busier, sharper guy for long stretches. Now, the danger in this matchup is obvious. If this turns into a heavy grappling fight, you could get your rhythm taken away. But if Joshua Van keeps this upright, even most of the time, he can win rounds by volume, timing, and toughness. And that's why I'm looking at him at plus money and saying, I'll take the guy who could win the pace. So first pick for UFC 328 is Joshua Van money line against Tatsuro Taira. Pick number 2.
Yeah.
Now we'll go main event. Sean Strickland. This is my sprinkle. Sean Strickland is one of the weirdest guys in MMA to handicap because he's not flashy, but he is hard as nails. He's comfortable in ugly fights, and he's got that march forward style where he's constantly in your space. Technically, Strickland's bread and butter is high volume boxing, a stiff jab, and make you fight pace. And in 5-round fights, that matters because some guys look great early, then round 4 shows up and they're breathing through a straw.
Yeah.
Now, why is this only a sprinkle? Because he's facing the kind of physical wrestling pressure that could erase everything. Strickland does well if he's one-way traffic early, but if Strickland can survive the chaos and force longer exchanges and make this a real fight late, he's the type of guy who could turn this into trench warfare. Doesn't this sound exciting, guys?
I like it.
So
yeah.
I'm not saying lock, but I'm saying at a big number, I'll take a small bite of the underdog who has cardio, who has toughness, and and a path if the fight extends. So give me Sean Strickland on the money line. And then I'll bet my third bet for this card is Alexander Volkov minus 184 against Waldo Cortez Acosta. Of course, Tim, you know this. It's another heavyweight fight.
Yeah, of course.
Volkov is kind of the opposite of chaos heavyweights. He's tall, he's technical, he's a measured striker. He likes to work behind straight punches. He's a guy that likes to manage distance and basically make you fight at the end of his reach. When Volkov is on, he's not out there brawling. He's doing disciplined heavyweight kickboxing, jab, cross, textile touches, and he forces the other guy to solve a range problem for 15 minutes. And from a betting perspective, I like fighters whose win condition is clean and repeatable. Volkov's path is straightforward. Stay long, stay composed, bank rounds, punish entries. Heavyweight always has danger. One swing changes everything. But I am trusting the veteran who could keep a steady pace and not turn it into a coin flip. And that's why I'm laying a reasonable price on Volkov instead of getting cute.
Good breakdown.
Yeah,
that's my fight.
That's my take. It's good enough for me to sprinkle it and have investment in the festivities.
Great.
Nice.
All right. I'm not as familiar with the secondary market of mixed martial arts. Is there what's the secondary market look like in terms of like rounds? Can you pick rounds?
Oh yeah, you could pick rounds. You could pick is he going to win by a knockout? Is it going to be a TKO? Is he going to go the distance? You can go strikes. There's a whole bunch of different little prop breakdowns you could have with each fight. And it really does, when you sit there watching the UFC fight and you got the FanDuel app open and you're live betting, it is fun.
Yeah.
Looking for that round 3 knockout, Tim.
It is, dude. It is fun.
Yeah, God bless.
When you got skin in the game too.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the name of the game.
Mm-hmm. And you're sitting there with your son, who's getting into MMA, and who's taking striking classes and jiu-jitsu, and he's into it as well as you are.
Get it.
I could see Tim. I could see Riz at his son's practices, just kind of getting a little closer to the instructor.
I'm very zen, by the way. If I go to these jiu-jitsu tournaments, I'm very zen. I'm just sitting there. I'm the quiet dad.
But I can see you picking up like certain things that the instructors are saying, so that you can then go on to FanDuel, and when you're watching these fights, you can pick up.
I'm looking for any angle, guys.
Yep, I like it.
All right, listen, we'll take a break. We'll come back, and we're gonna have Anthony break down some of the NHL stuff and some of the NBA stuff. Boy, killing it last week.
Oh, boy.
Picking the Hawks, huh?
Well, from the guy that gave you that outstanding Hawks money line play, Tim, they lost by 51.
It was sweat-free.
It was sweat-free the wrong way.
All right, we are the Spread Zone, brought to you by FanDuel. All right, we're back on the Spread Zone, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Anthony, you want to break down some of the NHL and NBA playoff stuff?
Yeah,
Let's get some money.
So like I said, Riz, from the guy that brought you that outstanding Atlanta Hawks play on that Thursday night, I got a text message from the one and only Kerry Davis.
He wasn't pleased with you.
He said, hey.
Former Pittsburgh Steeler?
Former Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steeler. He said, hey, you should have taken the Hawks plus 230. And I was a little confused because I was at my son's baseball game, and I thought, plus 230, is he talking money line? Those odds weren't available, Tim. No, he meant 230 points because they were just absolutely annihilated. At least one spread zone listener did tweet at me, but you know what? He also came back at one point and says, hey, you totally redeemed yourself because we cashed on the NHL.
There it is.
I said, let's back up the Canadians to win the series. They did so against the Lightning.
Got that taken care of.
So I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to just stick with the NHL right now because the markets that I like are in the NHL. This Colorado-Minnesota series has been ugly from Minnesota's standpoint. They got a little bit of a layoff here, so I do worry a bit that Colorado loses some of its momentum. But boy, they've scored 14 goals in the first 2 games.
Already a net minding change in between game 1 and 2.
So this looks ugly for Minnesota. I found this on our partners at FanDuel. Colorado, Minnesota, total games in the series. Now remember, Colorado's already up 2-0. Over-under's 5.5. Now, it's juiced to the under at minus 142. That's still not a bad price. So what that means is, as long as Minnesota doesn't win 2 games, we're going to cash this thing. Yeah. We got a Colorado sweep or we got a Colorado gentleman sweep.
Gentleman sweep.
Where they lose, maybe
What's
they
the
lose
best bet?
one. I think that they probably sweep, but either way, I'm going to take the under 5.5. And Riz, I'm covered both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. So that series, I haven't seen. I didn't watch the first game.
It's ugly.
It's ugly.
It was 9-6 Colorado.
Minnesota already changing.
They changed
Yes.
goalies in between games 1 and 2.
So let's say Minnesota wins 1 at home.
Mm-hmm.
They have to go back to Colorado for game 5.
Yeah.
And then we need the Avalanche to win that game.
Right.
They're probably going to be minus 175, 180, 190 on the money line. We could hedge a little bit, with Minnesota playing that, but I like the under 5.5 total games in that series.
All right.
The other one that I'm looking at is the over 5.5 in the Vegas Anaheim series.
I like that play.
Vegas is taking the one lead.
That's a
Game two
series.
tonight.
That's a
Tim,
series.
this is going to be a series. So if you're looking at these two teams, they're literally even over their last 10 games. They have split their last 10 games. I think Anaheim is feisty. They can score. I mentioned, I think, in the previous podcast that Vegas, to me, is not the juggernaut that they were 3-4 years
They are
ago.
the favorite tonight.
They certainly are.
Minus 162.
Yep. But I like the under 5.5 in that Colorado series. I like the over 5.5 in this Vegas Anaheim series. Really, right now, all we need is Anaheim to win 2 games, and we cash that one. And then the other one that I like is the Buffalo Sabres to win their second round series against Montreal.
And I'd like to see them win.
That's where I am too.
Good team. This isn't just a feel good story
Right.
anymore. It's this is a team that can win. Montreal had, I think, 2 shots and both of them hit.
Yes.
In that Tampa Bay game.
They had 9 shots and they still won the game.
And I appreciate it, Tim, because we had Montreal winning that series last week.
Yep.
But I do think that Buffalo wins the series, and the price on Buffalo is only minus 113.
That's surprising to me. I would have thought they would have been a bigger favorite on that, but I guess Montreal with the momentum of the Game 7 win. But I was surprised to see that number. I thought Buffalo would have been a much bigger favorite, not just a favorite, but a much bigger favorite.
The only other one that I looked at, but I don't like the price on it, is the under 5.5 with the Flyers and Hurricanes. I don't think that's a series, but it's minus 205 on our friends at FanDuel.
tough.
I cut it off about minus 150 because I can't go any higher than that. The one thing I would look at in the NBA, we're recording this on a Wednesday, which is what Riz mentioned before. If for some reason Minnesota stuns the Spurs again, and they're a 10.5 point favorite tonight, again, Wednesday is our recording day. If they were somehow to win again like they did the other night, I'd be looking at that series price with the Spurs, because I think you're going to get plus odds, and that San Antonio team is loaded.
Yeah.
So even 2-0 deficit and going to Minnesota, I would look at backing San Antonio to still win that series. Again, you're probably getting plus odds, but that's contingent on Minnesota winning again tonight, which highly unlikely is a 10.5 point underdog.
You want to touch the 76ers Knicks series?
So the only thing that I would do in the Eastern Conference, are you a Knicks guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the only team that really gives the Knicks any sort of issues will be Detroit.
The motorcade.
So if Detroit knocks off Cleveland and they're up 1-0 in that series, I would look for Detroit to win the Eastern Conference, and I'd even play it now, in fact, because I do think the Pistons are the only team that gives the Knicks issues there. I think the 76ers time is up, and I think the
Cavs?
Not the Cavs. Sorry, going back over to the West. The Lakers. I think the Lakers.
The Lake Show.
Like that's done. That's done. Thanks for showing up.
It was a pleasant surprise that they got past the Rockets.
Round 1 series goes to you. Houston had some issues, with leadership and all that. Thunder's done. I think the Sixers are done. Nice try there. And I do think it's going to be a Knicks Pistons Eastern Conference.
That's old school stuff right there. Knicks and Pistons doing battle.
It's good to see those two teams. That's a good point. It's really good to see those two teams.
Some big brands
back in it.
Heading it up. I look at the Stanley Cup playoffs, and as we're sitting here, we have 2 teams that just look like absolute wagons in the Hurricanes and the Avalanche. And I realize they still have to get through their respective conference semifinals and then their conference final matchups. But they're monster favorites to win each one of their conferences. So what I was curious about is what the payout would be if you have the Avalanche taking on the Hurricanes as the Stanley Cup final. And it is plus money. Now both have to get there, of course, so you're essentially in a parlay mode, but it's plus 129 for it to be a Hurricanes-Avalanche. And considering the Avalanche situation as it is, and considering the Hurricane situation as it is, and I think most people would say without question that both those teams, should they get past the Flyers and the Wild respectively, they're going to be pretty substantial favorites against whoever they were to face, Buffalo or Montreal, and then Anaheim or Las Vegas. I really like that play to get plus money. I don't think that there
plus
is
129. You said
plus 129. I don't know if there is an appreciation for how dominant those two teams have been and are. Colorado started off the regular season on a tear and then kind of came back. I wonder, both health-wise and then motivation-wise, what was there. And now that they need to do it, you're seeing what they're capable of. That's otherworldly. Carolina has knocked on the door so many times, so many years. This, with no Panthers in their way, with no Lightning in their way, this would be their time. Carolina and Colorado, plus 129. It's a relatively long play. That would be my recommended play.
All right, fellas. I think that's it for this week. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
We got the golf. We got the MMA. We got the NBA, NHL playoffs. Next week, what do we got? We got
PGA Championship.
PGA Championship. I think we got a Ronda Rousey fight.
Yes.
Maybe to talk about next week.
Maybe
more NBA, NHL.
Yeah, maybe some conference stuff.
Action. All right, we are the Spread Zone, presented by FanDuel. We'll see you next week.
We provide information about sports betting for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm gambling regulations in your state of residence. To participate in sports gaming, you must be 21 years of age or older and be physically present in a state where sports betting is legal. If you or someone you know has a sports betting or gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org for more information and further assistance.